We're here with Tina Cannon, candidate for Austin City Council District 10. Thank you for being here, Tina.
Thanks, Marty.
So you have a lot of people in your race. It's a competitive race. Please tell us why you are the right council candidate, and especially how you want to lead on the environment.
Sure, and it's a question that we get asked routinely everywhere we go. Why are you running? And it's usually followed by a little snicker of, are you insane? And I think there probably is a little bit of that gene in all of us. I'm running really because for me, Austin's much more than a home. It very much is family. I don't have the luxury of having brothers or sisters or grandparents. My family is 1.5. It's my mother, myself, and her stepsister. I'm the only person in my family that even lives on this continent. And so for me, I don't have that call of a brother who needs help. I don't have that call of a sister who needs me to watch the kids. And so for me, Austin's calling. This is that favor that I finally get to give back to a city that has educated me, has provided me a place to start businesses on my own, has really allowed to let me live the type of life that I want to live. So this is my family.
Okay. And in terms of environmental leadership, what do you offer that we should know about?
Sure. I'm sure we'll cover a myriad of questions, but for me, one of my pet issues that's all over all of my printed material that we talk about at every campaign event is the water crisis that we're looking at here in Austin. Right now, I'm sure your viewers are well aware, the water situation is dire.
Yes.
If you've been past Travis, it's a bit like Moses. You can walk clean across that lake. And it's looking like a golf hazard instead of an actual lake. And so we know these things are happening. We know climate change is real, and we should be forecasting better than we are. So the accountant in me is a little alarmed that our water utility has done such a poor job of managing us to this point and is really not being proactive in managing us further. And there's a lot of issues going on with the water utility. I don't know how deep you want me.
Let's go into that. You have some ideas about how to do it differently.
So and there's a couple of things. So I'm an ex-auditor, an ex-accountant, and I always say recovering accountant because you never quite get out of it. And so the water utility itself, being $37 million in the hole right now, listening in and attending the water wastewater task force committees and listening to the citizens commissioners push the water utility and push with questionings until finally, I think it was Moriarty on the panel finally was able to get an answer out of Austin Water Utility of why are we not pushing a new stage restriction? We know it's coming. Why are we waiting? And finally, the answer after much dancing about from the water utility was, well, if we push further, we will be at a $50 million shortfall.
Because we'll make less money.
Right, because the guys that are selling you the water are also over conservation.
So how do we address that real quickly?
Yeah, so the auditor in me, it's like having your payables clerk set up your vendors. It just doesn't happen. There's just some separation of duties that have to happen. And having conservation underneath the same arm that's selling you water and that is managed and graded by its success in selling you water, those two should not be related.
Okay. How does that translate to Austin Energy and how we should be managing things there?
Yeah, so that question comes up a lot about, and we're usually, asked, are you in favor of moving the utility into private world or should it be under a review panel? The water utility is ours, and it should remain ours, and it should remain answering to council. That said, I would love to continue the citizen input and have a board and commission specific to the Austin utilities as a whole, both the water and the electric.
Where should we be getting our energy from or not from?
Yeah, so I love the idea of what we're doing out of Decker.
Which is?
Moving on to solar.
Okay.
My only issue with that is I love that Councilmember Riley kind of stuck his neck out there. I wish he would have stuck his neck out there at 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and not at 10 p.m.
Right.
Because it just raised a cloud of doubt, and it gave people another reason to say, well, that was bad, that was a sneaky move, that was a side move.
Let's move to coal.
It took the intention out.
Okay.
It took his good intention out.
All right, what about Fayette?
Fayette, and I've stated it everywhere I go, Fayette needs to be phased out. We need to close that thing out. We don't need to divest ourselves because it just leaves it open for somebody else to do the exact same thing. That's a technology that's old and dirty. We need to move away from that.
How about nuclear?
Nuclear, you can just read the news and know that that's not a good idea.
Okay.
It's an extremely dangerous technology. And when we have solar and wind at our disposal, that's so much safer, so much cleaner, it just makes sense to follow that lead.
All right, let's shift to transportation and land use planning. You are for or against Prop 1?
So Prop 1 is an interesting proposition. The accountant in me is not, I don't like the way it was set up. I don't like that it's coupled with roads. If the idea is to get more cars off the road, don't build more roads. And so that also with the fact that the COs didn't need to be in the bond, it was a little bit of an enticement to get people to vote for. We could have easily done the COs over the last 8 years and built the roads if that was the direction.
So, yes.
So the answer is I want to see rail. I'm not going to vote for Prop 1.
Okay.
Prop 1 is...
What do we do instead?
Is a tax burden. I think we come right back with this 10-1 council and we put another rail plan together immediately
Okay.
on the next day.
And in addition to rail, what do we need to be implementing? That's not going to be the full
Yeah,
solution.
it's not going to be the full solution, and it's years out from being able to come to fruition. We, as a city, we like to say we have a BRT system. We don't. We have a BRT line. You know, we have the
Right.
801 and the 803, and that's it. And it goes north to south, north to south.
Bus rapid transit.
Bus rapid transit. And there are cities across the globe, having an international family, right? There are cities across the globe that do a far better job at really deploying a true BRT system that's much more agile and increases consumer adoption so that we can move the Texas consumer out of their cars and trucks into buses and then eventually onto rail and have those routes ready to go.
What else besides buses?
Buses, bike lanes, multimodal. You know, we've got areas in Austin, both in District 10 as well as the entire city, that don't even have sidewalks.
Right.
So that we have to really get down to the basics, boots on the ground, of building our sidewalks, building out our bike lanes, and the programs around encouraging biking, especially at the elementary and middle school.
Okay, speaking of building, how about how we're building out and imagine Austin translating into code next?
Yeah.
How do you feel about all that?
It's a huge process, and if you've ever had to remodel a home or a business and gone through that process, I mean, Austin is painfully behind.
Right.
And it is painfully difficult. I mean, the book that you go through to find out, can I put a new bathroom in this facility, is intense. And depending which developer or which reviewer comes out, you're going to get a different answer. So there's inconsistencies in the way the code is written, both as a homeowner. If I buy a home here, what can I expect to be here? What can I expect to be across the street?
Right.
And how long can I expect that to hold true? Versus what that's what we currently have. It's a big unknown. And so I'm in favor of the Code Next program. I'm encouraged that neighborhood groups are a part of it. I really wish there would be more involvement in the neighborhood groups. Far too often we talk to people that don't know that this process is going on, and this is one of the largest things that we're taking on as a city.
All right. In terms of other priorities, what if you could accomplish one thing while in office, in terms of the environment, what would you want to tackle?
Besides being taller. It's a good question. I think, water is the biggest issue by far, and I know it sounds a bit redundant, but we can't truly survive long-term as a
What would
city
it look
without
like?
water.
You're successful, and what's in place when after you've been in office?
Yeah, we've extended our contract with TCEQ to make sure that we've hedged our water purchases for the next decade, 2 decades, and that we're doing things to increase our infrastructure, both fixing our current infrastructure and then laying new infrastructure for reuse and reclaim.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. It was a
Absolutely.
pleasure talking with you.
Thank you very much.